Bam, bam, bam. Knock on the door, 4:30 in the morning. Uncle Willard, it's daylight in the swamps. Let's get after it. I got up and, oh my gosh, hit the lights. Out the door. I knew that my brothers and sisters were going to hit that bathroom. I needed to get there, and I needed to be the first one in there and out. So in the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, woke up, put some water in my hair, combed my hair, and brushed my teeth. And then out that door, down the hall to the kitchen. From that kitchen came some smells of bacon cooking, and you could hear the sounds of the sizzling bacon and fried potatoes. The toaster would pop up. You could hear that scrape from some of those pieces of toast were a little bit too done. Churned butter slathered onto that toast. That was a morning ritual. Over 50 years ago, I still remember that. The whole summer, I woke up to that every day. After a hearty breakfast, I was out in the field. My Aunt Avija, she was in charge of that kitchen. She was in charge of everything, as I recall. My Aunt Avija would be leading my brothers and sisters and I, as the sun was coming up, down a row, hoeing these plants, getting rid of the weeds. And our job was to clean these plants of the weeds and move from one side of the field down to the end of the field, and then turn back up and do it again and keep going until we got a ring for a break or lunch, or it was the end of the day. Now that was the young plants. This job lasted us about 1.5 to 2 weeks, and then the field next to us, the mature plants were starting to get ripe. So we bam, bam, bam on the doors every morning, hit that delicious breakfast, and as the sun was coming up, this time we were on our knees. And there was as I recall, a carrier with quarts of strawberries, well wooden quarts that we'd fill with strawberries. As we searched through the bushes, the lush green bushes, and found the red ripe berries and gleaned the berries from the plants, put them into the carriers, and when carriers were heaping full, we would mark the rope with our hat and grab that carrier and run to the end of the row where there was a makeshift strawberry stand with a big sign that said fresh strawberries, and there was Aunt Avija. She had cases, she was packing them. She made the time to grab our card and put a mark on it, and then we'd turn right back around and we'd pick up where we left off, and we kept going. We would do that until we took a break, midday, probably mid-morning, then midday, and then later on in the afternoon we'd call it quits, and then we'd go do what kids did, horse around and go down to the pond swimming or fishing or whatever. But this was a business. The strawberries needed to be sold. You can imagine a group of 10 or 12 people picking strawberries by the pint. At the end of the day, there was a lot of strawberries. And so my Aunt Avija had these strawberries all boxed up. We would load them into a big box van. During the day, my Uncle Willard would be on the phone, and he would be calling the local supermarkets and he would be asking for orders, telling them the strawberries are fresh, and see if we could sign them up for a case of strawberries or 2 or 10 cases. And then in the morning, early in the morning, my cousin Randy would take those berries and he would go to the first nearest town and he'd rap on the door and he'd ask if the produce manager was in, and he would be trying to get rid of the strawberries. Now, my cousin Randy, 19 years old, blonde hair, blue-eyed kid, he worked selling those strawberries. He would drive the van to the various stores, and I would occasionally get to go with him. I say get to because I'd get out of work. Well, I thought I was getting out of work, but work was never really work for me anyway. I was there and I was having a good time, and it all seemed to work out. Anyway, I helped my cousin Randy. Sometimes we would go through the day and we would have a few cases or carriers of strawberries left on the van. When we knew that there was going to be another full box of a full truckload of strawberries waiting for us when we got back, going back home with strawberries at the end of the day was not an option. So there was no one at the store to receive strawberries or to buy the strawberries. At the end of the day, we would go down the street and I would take 2 quarts of strawberries and Randy would take a couple of quarts, and we would sell these strawberries door to door. And we made sure by the end of the day we had gotten rid of all the strawberries. So the strawberry season is not a real long season. At some point we had picked all those strawberries. What does one do on a summer job when the job is picking strawberries? Well, in Wisconsin it rains, and when it rains, Aunt Avija would lead us down to this old abandoned cheese factory where she had turned it into a plaster of Paris type of a factory where we would produce and manufacture these piggy banks and figurines, statues, and that sort of thing. So she taught us how to pour the plaster into these molds and then pull the molds apart and trim the flashing off of the molds or off of the statues. And then she would paint the figurines with some sort of paint, and she would hand paint eyes and different things and make them sort of come to life. We would then take the figurines and put them in a box and pack them up with newspaper, and cousin Randy would load these things onto a van, the same van that he'd used for the strawberries, and he would make the rounds as a carny. He would go from fair to carnival, and he would set up an age and weight guessing stand, and I would go with him. So age within 2 years, weight within 3 pounds. He had these shelves. The large piggy banks and figurines would be on the top, the mediums on the middle, and the small ones would be on the lower shelf. If you gave us $1, you could guess from the top shelf, and if you missed, that would be your prize. And he had a real good knack on catching a guy's eye when he was walking down the fairway or the midway with his girlfriend. He'd look at her and he'd say, "Bring that gal in here and let's weigh her up." Your age, your weight, 3 pounds, 2 years, you win one. My Uncle Willard always used to say, "Stick and stay." and make it pay. And the strawberry farm, everything had a sense of urgency. You had to stick with it on the cultivating side of it. You had to stick with it on the strawberry picking side, and you had to stay with it on the sales side. There was a lot of work that went into that strawberry business. I remember to this day a lot of his quips. He talked about his wife. He said, "Oh dear, bread and beer. If I wouldn't have married a fat little Norwegian, I wouldn't be here." Well, that describes my aunt. But my aunt, when I think back of her, she was cooking that breakfast. She was there with the hoe. She was there in the plaster. That lady was amazing. I think that's one of the great things about women and life in general. Anyway, that summer, I was 10 years old, was very influential in what I do today. Thank you.
All right.